Here. Okay. I feel like we can just kind of jump right into it. So we had a short break because I had to travel, but we're back. And last time we got to, we're in chapter 7 of the textbook, which is all about relative clauses with adverbial predicates. And we're at doing the exercises. We finished up to number 8. Now we are on, not even going to say it, the 9th exercise. And we'll do it just as we normally do. Like people take groups of 4, and we'll talk it all the way out. Does anyone want to take this first group of 4?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, let's do it.
Pa H, then niti amta demit.
Yeah. You want to try to do the Coptic?
Pahot.
Hot. Are you sure?
Pahot.
It's not hot. I can't tell for sure whether you're saying hot or hot, but it's not. It's hot.
Pahot, yeah. Pahot, yeah.
Yeah.
Nt or N.
Nope. What's the Coptic equivalent of this neti from late Egyptian? It's not N. It doesn't have an N in it, actually. It has no N whatsoever.
Net.
Not net.
I can't remember though. What?
I'll give you a hint.
Et.
Yeah. Et. And then for M, I'm just going to do, we would say M. We could say M in Coptic, but it's going to be N because I can already tell that the next word is going to be.
Okay.
Oh wait, how have I been doing this? So it's this. I'm just going to tell you it's this, right? Because the gender of this noun changes, and I think I've been keeping the gender correct in Coptic. I believe I have. Yeah. Or yeah, good point. Yeah, typically Coptic would want to say it like this. Coptic would rather use hen rather than n to say the word in. It prefers this one, which comes from emhenu in earlier Egyptian. Prefers to use a different preposition, but because we're kind of copying the Coptic and I'm sorry, kind of copying the Egyptian and getting the sounds in there using Coptic, I've been kind of like, I guess I've been a little idiosyncratic about it because it's hard to know what to do. Like in theory, if I'm using M here, I should actually be using T.
Yeah.
I should be making this feminine to keep it consistent. So it's better to get it right once than 0 times, I guess. Yeah, it's more consistent. Okay.
Maybe with an asterisk.
Oh, right. Yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay.
Then the coin or the silver belongs to the village or town.
So it's not belongs to. Remember, neti is the relative. So it's the silver, neti.
Yeah.
And that im ta demit.
Yeah, I confused with the ni construction.
Right.
Silver that is in the village.
Yeah. Great job. All right. I'm going to make this bigger. I should have done this earlier, but better late than never, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Pa-iti or pa-it. Inti ben su amta demit.
Yeah, good.
Then
okay.
Payot et
This gets
men.
tricky. No,
Et men. Okay.
not et men. That would be in late Egyptian. That would be et neti men. It'd be a different. It wouldn't be this. It'd be a different word in late Egyptian. It would be men. The negative existential predicator, as I've called it in the grammar. But we don't have that. We have. So if you'll remember from going over this, I can't remember whether we've seen an example of this or not, but we did go over it together. I talked about in the negative relative clauses, negated relative clauses with adverbial predicates. You have this rule that not only do you make it negative by putting in the negative word,
Okay.
You also have to add a third person pronoun that agrees.
Like I guess, yeah. The adverbial construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah. We would expect an on in Coptic. Late Egyptian normally usually doesn't have it, but we'll need it for Coptic.
Yeah. Payot et. Then N. And how to say so?
F in Coptic.
And F, yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't go into a lot of detail about this, but so we didn't learn this whole pronoun set, but there's this sort of pronouns in late Egyptian, the subject pronoun. It's an entire pronoun set, meaning that it has first person, second person, third person, and then in the second person and third person, there's masculine and feminine. So there's, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's actually 8 forms. We're only seeing 3 of them because we only need the third person because we need something that agrees with an antecedent noun, which is always going to be in the third person. If you're talking about some thing, it's always going to be he, she, or they, if you need a pronoun, right? It's never going to be I, and it's never going to be you. So we just learned like a little like subset of this pronoun set that we need for negating the relative sentences with adverbial predicates. And then in Coptic, it's weird. Basically, these things are not really the direct ancestors of this. There's a break with the past with that particular pronoun. You can tell that the F actually matches the other pronoun set, like the suffix pronouns, as the third person masculine singular. And that's not an accident, right? One set of pronouns, as it changed over time, it actually stole from another set.
Yeah, maybe just getting easier, like.
Yeah, it's the language is regularizing itself. It's eliminating.
Yeah, regularize.
Yeah. Okay, so enf.
Enf. Titme.
Yeah.
Or pitme.
Yeah, exactly. I was the same problem we had last time that I decided to resolve this way.
Yeah, maybe it is him, pitme, because of them. I don't know.
Mustafa, you really want to use Coptic hen, which is correct according to Coptic.
The father.
Okay.
Is not who is not in the village.
Yeah. I'm just gonna put a note for myself here. I think I'm gonna go into the exercises and change this word.
You could also make it the mother who's not in the village and sidestep the whole F issue.
Yeah, but then you don't get to learn about it.
Maybe you can newt or something like much more. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. So, and there are examples of that in these exercises. Like there's a reason there's so many exercises. It's so that you'll see enough examples. You'll have ample opportunity to practice if you want it. Yeah, not really sidestepping things. I am trying to, like, the whole thing, this whole project that we're engaged in, not just today, but like the whole late Egyptian course, is kind of the project of like deliberately choosing which things to tell you when, so that the language is intuitive to you and you can learn it in an ordered way. You know, there's no single path through the woods. So, yeah. But
so this Coptic sentence isn't really how you would say it in Coptic. It's like a transliteration of the late Egyptian,
yeah,
into Coptic, right?
That's exactly what it is.
You would probably just say piot et titme or titme on, right? That would be just how you would say it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because that nef thing, it's like, you know, I don't think you see that in Coptic anywhere, actually.
Very rarely. I actually, so when I was writing this chapter, I had that same question and I went and searched, and I did find a couple of examples. So it does sometimes happen.
In what text?
Just in the Bible text.
Oh, yeah?
I ended up finding a couple of things that I was like, yeah, I think that's what that is. I think it's a relative adverbial negation with an N and a pronoun. But of course, in the real examples, they're real sentences, right? They're not these, you know, little toy sentences that just show one grammatical feature at a time. They're like long, meandering, spoken or prose sentences where it's kind of like everything is nested. And I couldn't tell for sure, but I'm pretty sure I found a few examples of this actually happening. So I think I think I found enough evidence that it can happen to feel comfortable saying that, like, okay, this is a thing that you can still do in Coptic if you really wanted to, and it wouldn't be bad Coptic. But yeah, the most natural Coptic way to say this would look like this.
There's also like, there's like early Coptic, right? Or like proto-Coptic. I wonder if it would have been more common then and then it disappeared, or because the New Testament isn't like old Coptic, that's just regular Coptic, right? So if it's in
the New Testament is definitely not old Coptic. It's, if anything, it's kind of like it's the least still in development Coptic you might expect to find.
Right.
It's the most fully realized Coptic, not of all necessarily, because then you get, you know, it gets kind of pedantic, like how do you really decide? You run into like a Loki's wager problem. But yeah, so as you were saying, there was a time when this was normal. Obviously in late Egyptian, it's obligatory. And now there's a time when that is basically so unusual as to be more or less prohibited by the language. You can get away with it, but really nobody says it that way anymore. So there must be.
And then that optional negation thing that goes at the end, the una,
yeah,
isn't here, but later. So, and that thing also, and that doesn't turn into on, does it? Maybe, or
yeah, that turns into on.
Oh, okay. But it wasn't obligatory in the late Egyptian.
No, what's happened is we've seen.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, what was Jesperson's cycle? A couple of people in the Discord pointed this out to me when I mentioned it. So we've seen this process of the initial negation is being reinforced by a subsequent negator, right? You start with N, you put something at the beginning, you reinforce it by putting on at the end, like the father was not in the village whatsoever, or the father was not in the village at all. The father was not in the village a step. That's how French does it. And that's how French went through this same cycle. And then gradually over time, this one kind of becomes deprecated, and then this one comes to become obligatory. And English has gone through this. I think their original, I don't know anything about Anglo-Saxon other than just like the very loosest, you know, sort of glimpses of the thing. But you had something like, I don't know, very, very pseudo older stages of English. You have like I nego, and then I nego. I don't know. whatever it is. I just want to use German and fake it. with German.
Maybe ik
And
or some more.
yeah.
Yeah, go.
It's basically the word naught, N-A-U-G-H-T, which was
N-A-U-G-H-T?
Yeah, naught, which was in Old English added at the end of a sentence to emphatically deny it, and then it became it didn't have the stress, and then it turned into not.
Is it not with an O? Is it an O or an A?
Yeah, so the first ne was then phased out, and then this naught thing became not in unstressed position.
Wait, Rasmus, real quick, to Aurelio's question, is it not with an A or not with an O? Okay, it is with an A.
N-A-U-G-H-T.
That is just a gorgeous word. I'm so glad we got this.
I think it should be Nacht with a
Nacht, yeah, or even Nacht. Nacht.
Nacht. That sounds way more emphatic.
It's basically the same as German nicht.
Yeah.
Newicht.
Etymologically.
Wow, I thought there was an O, but no, cool, very cool.
Okay,
so
and then we
mm-hmm.
don't, then that kind of phases out the ne, and then this word changes over time, as you said already, Rasmus, to become not. So I go not, and then of course English has taken this another step. We've brought in do support, where we say I do not, and now the not applies to a little auxiliary verb, I do not go, and then these two things become contracted, and we get I don't go, etc. Which that part of it you can easily, like everyone who knows English knows that part, because it's still part of the language today. But yeah, so this thing, you have an initial negator that goes before the thing that you want to negate, and then you add a sort of emphatic negation at the end to say like really not at all. And then over time that emphatic negator becomes obligatory, and then as a result the initial negator isn't really doing anything anymore. And like any evolutionary process, when anything is just kind of hanging around not serving any purpose, just by the laws of probability, nothing is keeping it alive. It's eventually just going to kind of linger and die away. And that's exactly what happened in Egyptian. So yeah, so this is our fake sort of pseudo-Coptic sentence that we're using to get an intuitive sense of what the language might have sounded like and where the stress is, and it helps you remember what the nouns mean because it gives you something that you can say aloud that matches, you know, a real spoken language that actually existed at some point in history. And then we have an actual good Coptic sentence, which not only sort of, it's not just to give you a handhold. This is actually like, you could find this literal sentence in an actual ancient Coptic text that an ancient Egyptian person wrote with their own hand. And they're a little bit different, right? But again, we've got, you know, what are we talking about here? This text is roughly 1000 BC, this one here. So let's say minus 1000. And then this one here is at least 400 AD, maybe more. So we've got about 1400 years of difference in there, which is, I think it's someone who really knows the history of English really well. It seems pretty comparable to me to this time period. I don't know, like 1400 years, that would put us in the 600s?
Around 600 AD, right? So that fits.
That's roughly Anglo-Saxon period. Sorry, it's not an area that I know. I'm definitely veering outside of my lane whenever I go into this kind of stuff, but you know, with anything, you can't know everything. And if the example helps you, then, you know, might as well kind of take a stab at it. Okay, so yeah. Did that answer your question, Dante?
Sorry, I done mute. Yes, okay. Totally. It's fascinating.
It's good stuff, right? It never gets old.
Yeah.
And luckily we have Rasmus here who can add in some new information that I didn't even know. Yeah. Okay. Mustafa, you want to do a couple more?
Yeah, sure. Na it ETU, na ETU or ET NT ben Set im.
The Coptic,
Let me think.
or I should say the pseudo-Coptic. I'm going to start calling the pseudo-Coptic, just to clarify to Dante's point, which is an important one. And Mustafa, you've made this point too. Like, this is not always good grammatical Coptic, right? This is kind of a fake intermediate language that we're making for our own edification. Yeah. Okay. So the pseudo-Coptic is
Enyot. Yeah. Yote. And
nope, no N.
Nef.
No, we need this guy still. You're skipping past this.
Yeah. Et.
Good.
Et. Nes. Ense. Yeah. Ense. Emao.
Good. Yeah. And this is again ungrammatical Coptic as a sentence. We'll just do we'll try to do the more grammatical Coptic, I guess, whenever we have the chance. Et emao an. This is what Coptic would normally have. But our sort of pseudo-Coptic here, we get et ensa emao, and then there is an obligatory on that late Egyptian doesn't include. Okay, what does this mean?
Let me check. Yeah. Fathers.
The fathers.
The fathers who are not there.
Yeah. Not like terribly like I don't know what the word is. It's not a great sentence. It's just not a very good sentence. It doesn't like create images in your mind, but whatever, right? It's a grammatical example. The fathers who are not there.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly cromulent sentence. Okay.
Na nasuti anti amba na necheru. And then, yeah.
Hardest part about it, inventing new terminology or whatever, is remembering to use it. Okay, and then the Coptic.
What are you inventing? What are you?
Oh, this three. I always forget about this three. Oh, and I said necheru too, which is what I'm specifically not doing. I always forget. I'm in the habit of doing it like the Middle Egyptian way. And then I'm trying to do it the late Egyptian way with the three and everything to make really clear what exactly this script is telling us. And then, yeah. Okay.
Then the kings, actually, and a row.
So, right. This is our pseudo Coptic again. So let's do the real Coptic. I feel like Mustafa, you're especially, sorry, Hieroglyphic, you're especially driven towards making a good Coptic sentence. So let's go ahead and make it.
Actually, it is a little bit more harder to me because double language barrier to me.
Right. I know.
English upon Middle Egyptian upon Coptic, it is a little bit confusing. I couldn't even make a fake sentence. Like, it's weird.
It's like you've set yourself an incredible challenge. You don't need to tell me. I could tell you that. Like, yeah. I mean, this class is being conducted in a language that is not your native language, and then I'm asking you to compose a sentence in an ancient language where you have to take another ancient language and kind of tweak it to match an earlier version of that. I mean, it's just like the fact that you're able to get a single word down at all is frankly remarkable. It's not easy, but you're really putting your shoulder to the wheel here. Okay.
Which one continue? Fake one or?
Yeah, I'll make the fake one. I think based on like a few little sources of evidence that a possible reconstruction for what this would have been in Coptic is Insoi. That's quite likely. That's actually, I would say I'm pretty confident in that reconstruction. Okay, and then, yeah, let's continue. Whichever one you prefer.
Okay.
Which one?
And a row, then add a macht.
Yeah, I would actually say
Enachen.
Sorry, Enachen, and then
Note.
The plural. How do you say gods in Coptic? You're thinking of Nuta. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry, I didn't hear in Note. So
Note,
like
yeah.
the gods. This is perfectly fine. You can say the gods like this. Coptic actually does have an irregular plural for gods. Yeah. Okay, so this I think this is my good Coptic sentence. And then the choice of whether to say Nuta, so like the plural, and then just use the singular word God, so the gods, where the plural article is what actually tells you that you're dealing with a plural. Like literally, this is the plural gods. Yeah. Or we could say Venter, and then that's this one. This is, oh, well, I can't do that in English because English doesn't have an irregular plural of the word God. Yeah. The Godin. I'll just do what you do as an American living in Germany when you don't know the German word for something and just put N on the end of it.
Actually, yeah, it is logical because Godin.
Yeah, the Godin. Yeah, good enough.
Or
okay.
Just a single D, maybe something more German-like.
Right. I'm just gonna leave it. Okay. So oh, I could have just written gods, the gods. It's not irregular, but it's still the plural. Whatever. Okay, let's do the fake one. The fake one is actually almost exactly the same from here, except that, I mean, we're definitely going to keep the irregular plural because in Coptic, right, that irregularity is an older thing that's been preserved. So we're going to keep that. The et's going to stay the same. We're going to keep the irregular plural. And then the only thing to really choose is this preposition. And we have that kind of like hardwired in already, that imbah becomes Coptic immah. It is a Coptic preposition. It's significantly less common than this one, which is why I say our real Coptic example looks like this, while our pseudo-Coptic example looks like this.
Yeah, okay.
But then you can take our pseudo-Coptic example.
Maybe
and
we can say not pseudo-Coptic, maybe scientific. I don't know. Scientific construction of Coptic. I don't know.
Sure.
Because
we can call
try to a version of reconstruction or something.
Yeah, it's an intellectual exercise, to be sure. And all it really is for is so that when you're reading an actual late Egyptian text, you have something to say inside your head. And the whole point of this, I don't know if I've actually spent any time talking about this, but I did an experiment. This would have been like 5 years ago now. I was teaching 2 classes. That is the ancestor of this class that we're doing together now. And I taught 2 separate groups of students. One group got the Coptic words alongside the hieroglyphic words and had to learn both together in the same amount of time. And the other group got only the hieroglyphic words and only the Egyptological sort of fake vocalization, like no Coptic to help them with how to pronounce things. And I gave them daily vocabulary quizzes. And there was a notable increase in performance among the students that had the Coptic also with the hieroglyphs. And there's tons of linguistic evidence that like being able to read a language aloud or being able to vocalize a language has really powerful impact on learning performance, because our subconscious brains seem to be especially tuned to the task learning spoken languages, and they're not so attuned to the task of learning written languages.
Yeah.
So quick question from Kevin. For sentences and words that are not actual Coptic, do you always put a star to mark it? No, and I'm actually, the star here pertains to this particular reconstruction of the word for kings, which doesn't survive into Coptic. In all cases where all the Coptic words are perfectly legitimate, it's unmarked because, well, you want to give it half a star, really. It's not totally fake Coptic. It is like, you could imagine like a foreigner in Egypt in the 4th century AD saying this sentence aloud to someone and being more or less understood as intended. So it's just not good Coptic. It's like, non-fluent.
Do you think it'll create a problem learning or looking at not good Coptic too much?
No.
Without knowing it? Okay.
And this is that's the perfect question to ask, because that allows me to transition back into the story I was telling about this experiment I did. So there were those were the questions I was trying to answer. Does having this sort of bastardized version of Coptic get in the way of learning Late Egyptian, or does it benefit? And what I found is that there was definitely an overall benefit. There are a few outliers that skewed the results. Like there was one student in the course that had Coptic that just totally phoned it in after like the second day and made like 20% on all of her quizzes for the rest of the class. So like that obviously skews the results a little bit. I ended up with a p-value of 5.4% to what is it? Someone who's good at statistics. It's like probability of rejecting the null hypothesis that having the Coptic offers no benefit was 94.6% or whatever. So 19 out of 20 times having the fake Coptic is going to help you learn Egyptian better. Yeah.
Do you think having the fake Coptic will obstruct learning Coptic?
That I haven't actually tested, so I don't know. That's another experiment. And in this case, the experiment that I did, my results really weren't solid enough to kind of put this out into the world as like, this definitely works. So my plan after that was to redo that experiment on a larger scale. So I want to do like a MOOC, basically, where everybody agrees beforehand to be a part of this experiment. And then by random lottery, you either get the Coptic help or you don't. You don't even know what thing you might be getting or not getting, but you just agree by participating in the course that some students are going to get information that other students don't. And then this is going to be used to test whether this information is helpful or harmful for learning language. And I want to do that. I want to actually like host a MOOC where, say 1,000 people sign up. I randomly sort them into 2 categories, and then I have a large enough sample size to answer exactly your kind of questions. I could add that question to the experiment using the same experimental set. And oh no, I guess I couldn't. No, I'd have to do a separate experiment. I need people who have seen the fake Coptic and people who've only seen real Coptic. So yeah, I could do another Coptic MOOC where I test that. You guys, everyone in this course right now, are in the R&D sort of like workshop of that experiment. So I did this class before, I didn't have a large enough sample size. I got a p-value of 5.4. I have to do it again with a larger sample to prove this result, which I think is very important for our, the pedagogy of ancient Egyptian. And in order to do that, I have to develop an online course that has or doesn't have the Coptic in it, which means I have to develop an online course which has the Coptic in it that actually effectively teaches this language, which means I need to have a bunch of volunteers participate in a free online course where I developed that online course. And that's where you are now on the roadmap of this experiment.
So does that mean that we should all be taking the Coptic course as well?
Well, in terms of experimental design, I hadn't considered trying to answer this question that Kevin just asked until literally 3 minutes ago. So I don't know, George.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, it's just, it's like you can always find another question. Should you
Do you think it's Do you think it's worth it to mark all the awkward Coptic sentences?
Well, I
Or-
think it's so I think there's a global marking, which is that in the book and then in the class itself, I tell you over and over again that this is not real Coptic.
Gotcha.
So I'm not marking each sentence, because then you get this weird thing where it's like, okay, like I'm marking this specific word and now every sentence has a star on it, to the point that it's just doesn't mean anything to see a star there, because it's just always there. It basically becomes a bullet point. Or I just say globally, everything is crummy Coptic. It's just there to help you read aloud the late Egyptian inside your head, because I have at least initial indication that it's of some benefit to do that for learning Egyptian itself. And then also, because you're participating in this free class where I'm developing this course, you're as Pinar says, I'm my wife, who's not a native English speaker, I'm using y'all as my guinea pigs. But yeah, I've told you. It was, I think it's in the first chapter of the book. Maybe not everything I just said, but like that, yeah, that's.
Honestly, if I may weigh in,
Sure.
maybe just consider every word as a word for word gloss, as if there were little interpuncts in between the words.
Yeah.
Because before we started all this, even for Middle Egyptian, I try to do it whenever I recognize a word or a word form somewhere in a text, I write a little Coptic underneath. And it doesn't make a perfect Coptic sentence, especially for Middle Egyptian, by no by no stretch of the imagination, but it certainly helps recognizing things and reading them aloud. So I imagine little dots in between. Nensoy dot, et dot, emach dot, nenter, because that's what the individual morphemes are that we're looking at.
Right, and that is that's a really good point, Aurelio, because that's exactly what we're doing. We are literally taking the individual, for the most part, individual Coptic words, or at least like individual noun clauses or whatever, and just transposing them directly onto the Coptic that we know was related to that exact noun clause. So it's very much, it's like, it's a very mechanical sort of translation. It's not, obviously there's more to translating languages than this. Then, you can't just take like a Japanese sentence and recite it word for word in English and have like a normal grammatical English sentence that a native speaker would actually use. Yeah, that's what the whole, like, there's a whole genre of humor that's just like finding strange sentences in your native language that non-native speakers have created. As an American citizen living in Berlin, I am just every day providing German native speakers with this genre of humor. I just go through the city, just sprinkling little bit of glitter of just like really goofy German into people's lives. So yeah, that's how languages work. Yeah, this is goofy. This is someone from the time of let's say Ramses the Great has been transported in a time machine into late antique Egypt 1500 years later, and they're trying to speak the language that they hear around them, but their own native language is getting in the way, and they're producing this kind of bastardized version of the language. Yeah. Okay, so that was a pretty huge digression, but it was all really core stuff that, to your question, Kevin, like as a means of addressing this, I'm kind of just saying it over and over. Doesn't hurt to say it again. And then talking about this experiment that I did and how I have reason to believe that this is beneficial to you, but I don't have enough evidence. So you're actually, like, because you arrived at this time, you arrived in the process of this scientific process at the point where you're part of answering that question. Like you're in a teaching hospital here, and we're about to do a surgery, and we think it will work. So, fingers crossed.
Wait. That puts me in the perspective of being the guy on that table under the bright light.
That's exactly what you are. That's exactly what you are. Yes. That's how you should understand that metaphor, for sure. Okay. What does this sentence mean, Mustafa?
Yeah, kings, the kings who are in presence, who are in the presence of the gods.
Yeah, kings who are in the presence of the gods. I mean, this is like a cool sentence. I'm kind of proud of this one. Compare it with this really like wet blanket of a sentence.
I'm
It's
pretty
much better.
sure there might any Middle Egyptian inscription, because so feel like in pure Egyptian.
Yeah, it feels like a real Egyptian sentence. It isn't, by the way. None of these are, but it does feel right. Okay, I'm gonna thank you, Mustafa, for your always valiant efforts and you know, in full recognition of the incredible difficulty of the task that you have set before yourself of working in 2 ancient languages in a foreign language. Thanks for your 4. Can I get a volunteer for another 4?
I can do it.
Okay.
So Panib enti herta tibet.
Our pseudo-Coptic.
Yeah, Panib et he toy.
Yeah. Oh, how did I does anybody remember how I reconstructed this before? Dope?
Tope.
Wait, it would have to be dope. I don't know. That's not a bad guess. I think that's how I've reconstructed it before. I think I've also very often done just that because
Yeah,
I
I think it was
really
just
don't.
left blank.
Yeah, I don't have enough evidence for that one. And we've talked about this on the Discord. In a like this, we're also like, not only is this the experimental creation of a course that will test various questions about learning Egyptian, but this is also the first run through of the course, right? So in the second iteration, I'm going to choose a late Egyptian word that has a Coptic match to it. I'm just kind of discovering. I chose all the words from the text, The Report of Wenamun, as kind of my basis for creating this grammar, because that's like the most late Egyptian text. You know, you can argue about it. But anyway, so like deped is a pretty common word in that text. So I included it in the vocabulary so that you know it when you see it in the actual readings, but we don't know the Coptic. So yeah, it's kind of a crummy choice. Anyway, Aurora, do you want to translate this?
Yeah, the Lord who is on the boat. Okay, so
Oh, sorry, Aurora, I accidentally muted myself. Yeah, your translation was correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay, do you want to do another one?
Yeah, sure.
Let's keep it going.
Paper enti ben sudi.
Okay.
And that would be Pepe.
Yeah, this one we can reconstruct as Pepe.
Okay, et enf tai.
Enf die, and then I'm going to throw in
An.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the house that is not here.
Yeah. Awesome. You know, we're going through these kind of quickly. Aurora, you're doing such a good job on them that I kind of want to like just keep the ball rolling. But just to remind you, like we're doing this right now so that you have the answer so that you can use it. Like if I were a student in this course, I would go through all of these on my own and like literally say like Papa et inf die an, or Papa et inti insa die. Like use this to read this to yourself. That's what it's for. Okay. Yeah, let's keep rolling.
Na sinu enti ben set herder ta niut una. And then there would be ensneu.
I really want to say nesneu.
Nesneu, okay.
But I'm not 100% on that. I just feel like I want to say nesneu.
Okay.
Do I? Let's go ahead and check this. I've been using it so many times that it's like at this point, I better check it before I tell someone that this is how it is.
Just because it's a double consonant?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Because the noun begins with 2 consonants. So in theory, the article should keep its vowel. The article only loses its vowel because embedded in a Coptic sentence, it can borrow a vowel from the previous word, or it can insert a short vowel to make the article work. But if there are 2 consonants, it can't move. It's fixed in place by the presence of those 2 consonants in a way that makes the syllabic structure of the sentence work. So then they actually write it because it's definitely going to be in that place. The brothers never appears in the New Testament. Oh my gosh. What are the chances that the phrase "the brothers" never appears? Well, there we get sneu. I mean, I already knew that the word was sneu. This is going really slow, probably because of this. Okay, anyway, well, I'm going to say it's nesneu, and we'll hope I'm right about that.
All right. Okay, so then et and se hidden te I don't know that one.
Nay.
Ne?
It's preserved in, I think it's preserved in the Old Testament, or just the Bible as no. So it's probably something like new during the New Kingdom. And then it survives into Coptic as ne, because there was this change between Late Egyptian and Coptic in the vowel shift, where all long stressed u type vowels become a in Coptic.
Okay.
So it's tne.
Right.
And then
and that would be the siblings who are not upon the city.
Yeah. Why did I say upon the city? Oh, anybody's guess. I mean, what in the world does that mean, upon the city? This is.
Like, to me, it kind of sounds like an army coming.
Like,
could be over the city, like they're like flying over.
Except it can't, because that would just be he. He depth actually means like above and touching. Yeah, so it's just like a clunky sentence. All right, do you want to do one more?
Sure.
I feel like you're having such a good run of it that you should definitely.
Thanks. Na niche enti ben set her patte.
Okay. Yeah, good.
And that would be nenter et ense hito.
I would even say that this is almost our good Coptic sentence. What would I say in good Coptic? That's et on. I guess it is still a little different, but I feel like this is a sentence that you could utter in like ancient Egypt in the 5th century CE and still be understood. It's not that crazy. Anyway, what does it mean?
The gods who are not on the land.
Yeah. Gods who are not on the land. Okay. Thank you so much, Aurora. That was really excellent.
Thank you.
Do I have another volunteer? We could probably do one more round of 4 before we have to go. If somebody wants to step into the breach here. Or I can pick on someone. There's one person in this little like Brady Bunch intro of faces who, when I threaten to pick on someone, always smiles. So pretty much just asking to get picked on. Yeah, go ahead and unmute. You know it's you, Aaron.
I knew who you were talking about.
Yeah.
We're 17. Okay.
Yep.
Ta demit enti bensetim.
Okay.
Tetime et ens emmau an.
Good.
The town which is not there.
I mean, great book title.
Mystery.
Yeah.
Na neti di.
Yeah, this is an easy one.
Tai.
Wow.
Net tai.
Yeah.
The ones who are here.
Yep.
The ones.
I can't remember how I've been doing this, but I guess I could I guess this would be a square bracket situation. It's like English requires it.
Or you could say those who are here, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh wait, except I'm trying to be careful with that because I want to only use these and those for the demonstratives, so they don't get mixed together in your head. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Pa iteru. Neti bensu hadep pa ium. Payor et nef higem payom on.
Yeah, good.
The river, which is not, it's a weird one, I love it. The river which is not on top of the sea, like so many rivers.
I mean, it's like, it doesn't really narrow it down.
Right. Ta neti im.
Okay.
Tet emmau.
Yeah. Oh, and the way you said it just reminds me, I should be writing this like this. I don't think I did it before either. I should be making sure I'm consistent. Coptic manuscripts themselves are not terribly consistent with where they put spaces. As a general rule, if anyone is curious, this sentence would probably look like this. Pior et infhigimpiom an. So normally Coptic, like typeset Coptic manuscripts separate words according to what actually has stress. So in this case, it would probably look like this, tetemel, because it only has actually one stress and the rest are just kind of like prefixed onto that word that carries the weight. Yeah. Okay, tetemel, what does that mean, tetemel?
The one who is there, the feminine one. Are we putting that in bracket? Yeah.
Yeah, the feminine one. The fem one. I can't remember the way I did it in the chapter, so probably inconsistent, but you know, that's how it goes. That's why you do a second pass to like iron out the way you do everything. Okay. Well, we didn't get through that many examples, but we talked about a lot of interesting things, or at least I find them interesting, and I hope you guys find them interesting too. We're back in business, so we'll be here next week, and we'll just continue rolling along until we finish these examples. And the next chapter is already in the textbook folder. I think I probably need to do at least one more draft before I say it's finished, but it's mostly finished, so you can go read that too if you want to. And I'm starting on the next chapter. So yeah. Until then, everybody have a great week. Stay safe. If you're coming to office hours, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.